Hello, my weary dearies. Something my mom used to say to me. I am broadcasting on this Tuesday after Mother's Day. Welcome back to another episode of Chronic Wellness. I'm glad to have you with me. I am newly returned from another freshly minted trip up to see my team of specialists in Seattle. For those of you who aren't with me regularly, Seattle is about 6 hours away from where I live in Eugene, and I go up there every 3 to 6 months, depending, to see a team of pulmonary docs where I used to be on the lung transplant list, and now I just get to go, not be on the transplant list, but visit with experts to consult with me about how my lungs are. And in addition, this trip had a special feature in that I had the wherewithal to say, hey, my local rheumatologist sees only me with antisynthetase syndrome, and I bet your rheumatologists see more folks with this rare disease. Could I consult? And so I got the opportunity while I was there to have the help and broadened perspective of somebody who sees more folks with my condition than just me. And that was very valuable. And I'll speak more on that in other episodes. But the purpose of my discussion today is, I've spoken here before about being on the chemotherapy agent called Rituxan, and I am on that for autoimmune diseases, but it is also used as a treatment for leukemia. And Rituxan has been known to limit the effectiveness of vaccines. And it can limit effectiveness if you have had it in the past, but it definitely limits the effectiveness if you take it in an ongoing way, which is the way my treatment and many people who take this drug for rheumatoid arthritis or other autoimmune diseases do take it. And part of its success in holding immune systems at bay for those of us with autoimmune diseases is by killing B cells and keeping B cells from maturing. And what we know about the COVID vaccine and other MRNA, these newly developed type of vaccines, do is that they require the B cells for their replication and delivery for the whole of your system. And so this whole time, even though I have had 2 vaccines and 2 boosters, I have been told to understand that the effectiveness of those vaccines are severely limited in my system. So while I was up there, I was asked by the rheumatologist, how many shots have you had? What are you doing for COVID protection? Has anybody tested your antibodies? And so in the course of that conversation, he said, well, while you're here today, let's test your antibodies in case you need some of this new drug called Evusheld out, that is the monoclonal antibody treatment. Now, this is not to be confused with the antibodies that you are given to speed your recovery if you get COVID. This is preventative antibody treatment. So let's see if you need that by testing your blood to see what antibodies you have. I was like, yeah, let's do that, because I don't know. And he said, now these tests are tricky to understand. The lab work can be difficult to read. So when you get home and you're looking at your online portal and you want to understand, here's what you should pay attention to. your spike IG SARS-CoV number, if it is less than 1,000, you should get monoclonal antibodies. It's like, okay, I can remember that. And, of course, wrote it down. And I got my results the next day, folks. I want you to just hold in your mind a number between 1 and 1,000. Or maybe higher, except, I've already told you, between 1 and 1,000. My number was 5.7. So, in answer to the question, has Rituxan limited the effectiveness of vaccines in my body? Yes, to the tune of there is no evidence that I've had any vaccines. I have no COVID protection on board. 5.6 is lower than you might have just walking around from being exposed in everyday life to the amount of SARS-CoV in the ether. I have less antibodies in my body than you would expect from somebody who's had 1 vaccine, much less 4. So lots of things, right? Like holla flippin' luya that after more than 2 years, I haven't caught this. Mad props to my wife who's kept me safe all this time. How miraculous and unbelievable that with our 19-year-old nephew living with us, I didn't catch it then either. And in answer to the question, am I a candidate for Evusheld and monoclonal antibody treatment? Yep, I am. Interestingly, when these therapies had first come to our community in mid-March, I had a pharmacist friend who had said, hey, Annette, you're a candidate, call about these. And I called like the next day, and I think that the medical assistant at my local pulmonary doc didn't understand what I was asking for, because even though she took down my message, asked some questions, got back to me, she was like, no, you have to wait until you're exposed or have a reason you're getting the antibodies. I think she was thinking about the kind you are administered after you get COVID. And so now I have documentation. I am on the list to get these autoantibodies. And of course, I'll include you in that journey. But all of this to say, if you are on an immune modifying drug like Rituxan, get your doctors to check your antibody levels, because it's valuable information to have. And there are now antibody therapies that can change your protection level. And those antibody therapies are clones of the antibodies that your body would make if you had COVID. And they are not dependent upon the B cells. And so they won't rinse out of my body as soon as I take my next dose of Rituxan. So that's also encouraging. It is 2 shots administered on the same day, and then another dose 6 months later. So that's now what I'm looking at, and I thought I'd keep you posted on that development. Have you had Evusheld? Have you had your autoantibodies tested? Are you on Rituxan and wonder about the effectiveness of the vaccine you've been getting? As ever, I'm eager to hear from you, and I'm grateful for you being here. I hope that you are staying safe, and until we're together again, thank you for sharing some time and attention with me. Share this with anybody who can use it, and until we're together again, be well.